The low contrast look of Arrival is something that many new cinematographers have strived for. It's now become iconic, and today I want to look at how Bradford Young created the archetypal look. I'll be talking about his use of lighting and composition, his choice of movement, what equipment he used, how the grade amplified the look, and what he does to create mystery in his cinematography. Denis Villeneuve went to Young as he wanted a cinematographer with a sensibility towards natural light, saying, "I wanted the movie to have strong roots in realism. I wanted a cinematographer who would not be afraid to deal with intimacy. It's a very specific sensibility that I felt in Bradford's previous work." They used a technique called colour timing in order to match Louise's state of mind throughout the film, using cooler colours like blue and green to represent her feeling worn down. Villeneuve wanted the movie to look more like a dirty science fiction film, wanting it to feel more grounded and for the cinematography to look slightly boring. The light in the spaceship, more specifically in the gloomy chamber, is very ominous and dark, somewhere where light is absorbed rather than reflected. Subliminally, it represents death. The main character is in a relationship with death. The more she learns about the heptapod culture, the more it changes her perception of life, death and time. It's also a scene that was extremely difficult for Young to shoot, as the screen at the end of the hallway was extremely bright, and when Louise is at the other end, she would be extremely dark. But then they reminded themselves that this is a film about Louise's personal enlightenment, and it creates the opportunity to let the light represent her journey. Inspired by Martina Hoogland's Evenau, Young wanted to create dread and chaos outside of the spaceship, which also happens to be Louise's safe zone. Evenau creates gloomy images where we don't know what's happening, and Young has achieved the same effect through his lighting in these scenes, a light controlled by the aliens, a light that brings a lot of intimacy, sensuality, fragility and humanity to the project. For the first 5 minutes of the film, Louise is often in the centre of the frame. Centre framing is usually used to make the audience focus on something. In this case, it's to show the tension building up for what is about to happen. Compared to the rest of the film, this is also a dreamlike sequence, where, like I mentioned earlier, Young has used colour to portray different emotions. When watching the film, I realised that a lot of the time, the characters aren't given a lot of looking space, and it's for a reason. They want to keep us guessing. By keeping the character to the left or right of the screen looking out, Young creates a world of mystery behind the frame. It's a technique that is used periodically throughout many films, but definitely not to this extent. When it comes to movement, we only really see handheld used in the opening scene, and like I said, it creates a dreamlike feeling where we are flowing through the air and we don't know where it's going to take us. When we aren't handheld or static though, Young likes to use a dolly. When I use a dolly or a camera movement, I always want it to be as subtle and as understated as possible. We can see this used throughout. For example, whenever we are creeping close to something, it's almost unnoticeable. We know it's happening, but it's the very last thing on our minds. Young used the Arri Alexa XT-M and Plus, paired with Camtech Vintage Ultra Primes, Kawasaki Promenades and Zeiss Super Speed lenses. Camtechs offer less contrast than most modern lenses, as well as enhanced flares and creaminess, allowing for a soft yet crisp image. Promenades create a warmer flare, but like the Camtechs, create sharp images with lower contrast. The same goes for the Super Speeds, but unlike the Promenades and Camtechs, allow for a much shallower depth of field of up to a T-stop of 1.3. When it came to the grading of the film, Joe Gouler was the choice. He had worked with Young many times before, which was helpful as he had to do a lot of the grading alone due to Young just having a baby. As I said previously, Villeneuve wanted the film to look boring, like a Tuesday morning, and it ends up looking very organic and having Young's signature low contrast and underlit look. It also happens that Young also likes to bake the look into the digital negative, meaning that there isn't actually a lot of room to play with the look in post. He does it all on set, but that's also the fun part. Ultimately, Bradford Young has created a world that is familiar yet distant. His use of colour and lighting has amplified the story, and he achieved what Denis Villeneuve wanted him to, for it to look mundane, and he did an incredible job. I hope you enjoyed this video looking at how Bradford Young shot Arrival. If you found it informative, a like is appreciated, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, then hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.